Welcome to Meganet Gaming, and today's review, the first review is going to be on a game that I missed out when it launched. However, it's a game that, because of a community that has come together to create an emulator and keep the game going, continues to persist. And that game is Star Wars Galaxies. And I'm going to be focusing on the pre-CU, pre-NG version. However, even though many people will tell you that the later version isn't good and it's what killed the game, it's really not that bad. You do lose a lot of the ability to customize your character from the original game, but for somebody looking for a more casual experience and slightly more intuitive and quicker paced combat, the NG version is perfectly fine to go with. I do recommend the older version. Personally though, because I love the ability to customize the characters and much of the challenge in the game. It's a MMORPG based on Star Wars, but unlike the Old Republic where you're the hero and you go through a bunch of instance quests, with this game you're just kind of dropped in the world. You can choose from 30 to 40 different professions, and you can try to combine different professions to create some unique character builds. For example, the one I have here on the screen as I transition over is a pistolier slash musician that also has quite a few of the dance skills up the tree. Not exactly the best build, but I decided to do that as a build just for something to do, and eventually I can finish the dance tree and just make this into a buff bot if I wanted to. So Star Wars Galaxies was developed by Sony Online Entertainment. It's also known for the EverQuest series. Published by LucasArts and released in North America on June 26th of 2003 and in Europe on November 7th. So doing a much better job of getting a worldwide launch than Acheron's Call, which waited almost 4 years for the European launch. However, Australia didn't get a launch until 2006, later in the game's lifestyle. So with this game, where you have, when the game first launched, you had 10 different species. You have the human, Twi'lek, Zabrak, Wookiee, and many others. After NG, there were 12 professions. Pre-NG, there were 34. And there's even a pilot profession where you could do some interesting things with that. There's numerous different vehicles, and the economy is mostly player driven. This is definitely a game where you can't just install a copy and get very far just playing it as a single player game. However, if you find a server that has somewhat of a population on it, you can be a neutral solo player and ignore a lot of the alliance versus the rebels versus the empire type stuff. There is PvP in the game, which some people say is a bit in favor of the Jedis. However, there was a point in time in the game where if your Jedi character died too many times, it ended up being a permadeath state. So Jedis really had to watch what they were doing. If anybody went near them when they were using force sensitive abilities, they would end up on a bounty hunter list at the terminal, and then bounty hunters would go after that person. And in the actual retail launch, when the public servers were up, there's a case that I heard of on another YouTube channel where somebody actually infiltrated a guild and waited for a guild meeting to attack one of the force sensitive characters. The setting is in the approximate time after the destruction of the Death Star in Episode 4, but before the Empire Strikes Back. There's numerous planets you can go on. There's the original 10 planets, and then they added some other ones later on. So 12 planets altogether, which makes up approximately 3,400 cubic kilometers fully navigatable space. It's a huge world to explore. Numerous professions you can undertake, and they're actually balanced in such a way where it makes sense. You can actually make it as a musician, because you need a musician for focus and willpower buffs. You can actually make it as a dancer, because you need that for certain buffs. The later game, there was the issue of some of this becoming, with some of the professions just going away altogether as a result of balance changes. So let's get some armor on this person. And the light armor. We'll go ahead and head out. Then you got a dancer here. The first person or third person. The master musician, master doctor. I don't have all the buffs I should have, but that is fine. And by default it does use arrow keys for movement, which is different than most MMOs, so you can either rebind the keys, or I just play it with the old settings. You learn skills from different skill trainers, and you actually have to use the skill, plus go see a trainer and pay money, or have another person in the game that has that skill. They can teach it to you, and they can charge whatever they wish. So let's get a mission. Actually, let's leave the group we're in. If you're in a group, the missions pay out more, but they're also more difficult, and the money's split. There we go, theatrical prop needed. So you go to the mission terminals, you take up to 2 at a time. These are kind of the equivalent of a quest, except they are randomized. And it does give you waypoints, which help a bit. I'll show you a vehicle. I prefer the speeder bike. You can paint it, make it your own little speeder bike. Now when you traverse the landscape, it is kind of awkward. You're not... Hills and stuff don't really matter. You do go slower if there's a hill, unless you have certain skills related to terrain navigation trained. It does create awkward situations where you're on a bike going pretty much straight up a mountain. So we are going to head in the direction of the quest. So as far as the world, it's very much a sandbox game. It's an open world game. And a game does, to a degree, depend on the population on the server. For the purpose of this review, I'm going to assume that the server has an adequate population, just like I did with Darkfall. Given it's not necessarily the game's fault if the people don't play it. Much like if you had a chessboard on the table and nobody sat down to play that game of chess, it doesn't make it a bad game. But yeah, it is a game where if it's a lower population server you're on, I do recommend bringing friends along. And you could do a lot with a group of people. It is a bit grindy. Actually, it's quite a bit. There's quite a bit of a grind for a lot of stuff. But it's very easy to look up information about how to create macros. So it's something you just leave on your computer when you're not home. Have your person dance around and do certain things to get those skills. So as far as the world being immersive, and also there's a huge variety of things you can build. huge variety of materials you can collect, and all of it impacts the quality. So you can go on the marketplace and have 1,000 of a similar gun. Each one has slightly different statistics because of the materials used and the crafter involved. So you could actually do pretty well in this game as a master crafter, or even just craft a certain item, like you can be the gun person for the entire server. So now it's on to one of the less good parts of the game, the combat. It's not terrible, it's very much a tab targeting system. And if you're doing the quest, what you do is you'll kill the creatures. Should be a couple more over here. Put all your different skills on the toolbar. You do have, by default, 6 sets of 12 keys you can bind to F1 through F12. So let's go ahead and take this out. No, we're not going to take it out by looking at it funny. Now we'll go for round 2. I was going to try to just take out the mound in spite of there being another set of creatures that spawned. If you have scouting, you can actually get bone, hide, and meat from different creatures. If they're humanoid characters, you can loot them for money. Yeah, a bit overpowered for the quest I took on here, but that's fine. Where's the thing we're supposed to get rid of? Sun is up this way. Apparently not. Sometimes the draw distance and pop-in isn't always the best. But it's not so bad where it makes the game unplayable. Question is, where's the thing I'm going after? Did I end up taking out the mound? Oh, looks like I did take it out. I didn't even realize that. I should have gotten the credits for it. Yeah, 17,000 credits, which is nothing in this game. So here's your professions. You have what I have trained. So I have 3 of the 4 branches for Master Entertainer. I went all the way up to Pistols branch on Marksman. I have most of the Master Dancer tree. I have all the Master Musician, and I'm working on Master Pistolier on this. It actually shows all your experience, unarmed combat, scouting. There are different languages in the game, and somebody could speak in their native language in the game. If you don't have the training for that specific language, it'll just look like gibberish in the chat. So here's all the different things you can do in this game. Alliance Starfighter pilot, Artisan Brawler, Entertainer, Freelance Pilot, Imperial Navy Pilot, Marksman, Medic, Politician, Scout, Architect, Armor Smith, Bioengineer, Bounty Hunter, and so on. Combat medics, creature handler, dancer, doctor, droid engineer, image designer, which is the one that can help change features of your character, as well as skills. Got your polearms person, Terraskazi artist, you got tailor, swordsman, squad leader, shipwright, rifleman, ranger. I'm missing some on there. Some professions are easier to level up and are typically more valuable later in game, but every single profession on there has some type of use in the game, albeit some are rather limited. So we'll go ahead and exit the game. So what we have here with Star Wars Galaxies is an example of everything you need in a sandbox open world MMO for it to function well. And for the time, it was a very impressive game. Now for somebody that's used to newer MMOs, somebody that might enjoy modern WoW or Elder Scrolls Online or Final Fantasy XIV, you might find this game difficult to get into. It does have a bit of a steep learning curve. Once you overcome that learning curve and learn the game, it is one of the most immersive, greatest experiences as far as MMOs go ever made. It is a bit ugly, but that's more of a product of the time. But at the time it didn't look the best. The combat's a bit clunky. And there are some balancing issues, like with any game. So where does it go on the list? I did switch to the 10-point scale with half points in between. Given doing the 1 to 5 scale didn't differentiate different games well enough. So it's a 10-point scale with 0.5s in between. So it goes from 1 to 10. 5 is an average game that's playable but very mediocre. Anything that's below a 4 starts getting into the... Below a 4 means it's probably not worth picking up, and anything above an 8 or actually I'd say a 7.5 and above is going to be a good experience. Really a 7 and above is going to be a good experience, and as you move up, the 9.5s and 10s are must-play experiences. So, Star Wars Galaxies. I am going to put this game at number 4. I'm going to give it a 9.5. The combat issues, combat being a bit clunky, does bring the score down a bit. But for an MMO, it is good combat relative to a lot of other games out there. I do prefer the more skill-based combat of an Acheron's Call or Darkfall. It's not bad combat, it just could be better. So I'll put a 4th on the list, below Divinity Original Sin 2, and above Arcanum of Steamworks and Magic Obscura. It's a game everybody should check out, play. And if you need a server to play on, I play on the Awakening server. And you can get that. Go to and find the link really quick. swgawakening.com. Or you can play on the official server of the emulator creators at swgemu.com. And then there's tons of other servers out there. swglegends.com, swginfinity.com. But I can only speak for Awakening and the official servers. So definitely check out this game. It's a bit old, but it's one of those games that ages well. Despite being a relatively early 3D game, it has all the features within the game necessary to create an experience that is timeless. Please like, subscribe, and if you have any comments or want to play within the game and need some help, just leave a comment. Need a 10,000 credits or some basic armor to start off or a gun. I'll be more than happy to help.